Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Newmarket, Ontario.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 1 for Sunday, January 24th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring tips on crop management, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is Cece Hockley.
I'm Sean O'Brien.
And we thank you for tuning in with us.
So if you're new to hearing Cece and I talk about hockey, we're going to break down some AHL hockey for you. We both watch a lot of games and are going to talk about what we see when we watch those games, as well as some advanced stats that help us break it all down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or channel or wherever you're listening to us from, whether that be YouTube or Spotify or Apple or Google or Stitcher, etc., and check out episode 0. It's a 20-minute primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey terms, you might be able to pick up a better idea of what we're putting down. I promise it isn't that nerdy or technical. That being said, let's get to business.
All righty. So Sean and I are going to be taking on the task of giving season previews of all 28 AHL teams that have opted in for this season. Obviously, with the 4 Canadian teams and their division figuring things out, we're gonna hold off and we're gonna wait a little bit on that. But we do have 4 divisions that have figured out their records, anywhere from 24 to 44 games in their regular season schedules. We're gonna start with the Pacific Division, and we're going to take on the Henderson Silver Knights. Now, obviously, they did not play in 2019-20. They were formerly the San Antonio Rampage until the Vegas Golden Knights organization purchased them and moved them to Henderson, Nevada, still in the Las Vegas Valley, but the suburb of Henderson, Nevada is now the home of the Vegas Golden Knights AHL affiliate, the Henderson Silver Knights. And a brief little capsule here. Their head coach is Manny Viveros. It is his first season coaching the club. They hired him from the Spokane Chiefs of the Western Hockey League. And of course, like I mentioned, the Silver Knights affiliation for 2021 is going to be with Vegas. They have 40 games scheduled, and they're taking on every member of the Pacific Division. I won't go into the nitty gritty on that because, like Sean and I talked before the episode, there's nothing really of note here. It's just all 7 of the Pacific Division rivals. Henderson joining the Pacific Division for the 2021 campaign. And that's pretty much it in regards to the bare bones basics of the Henderson Silver Knights. I'm going to kick it over to Sean, and he's going to talk a little bit about the forwards, the former, it used to be, with Vegas being connected with the Chicago Wolves and everything, there are a number of former Chicago Wolves on the roster, but there's also some new faces. So I'm going to quit being a blowhard and talking and let Sean take the floor.
Well, with guys like Cody Glass, Gage Quinney, and Thomas Yurko making the taxi squad for Vegas, the forward depth in Henderson for their inaugural season does look a bit rough. Dylan Sakura is certainly a capable forward, as is Lucas Alvenas. And with any luck at all, they'll get to keep top Vegas prospect from the CHL, Peyton Krebs, for the season. For those unfamiliar with Krebs, he's a guy with a lot of compete and toughness paired with a very sexy set of puck skills that'll make highlight reels. He's 19 and probably isn't used to playing against fully grown men, but I don't think that'll be as big a hindrance to him as it would be other players. And a similar ilk is Jack Dugan, who also has great hands and good work ethic. He's a bit bigger than Krebs and likes to get a little more physical. Behind them, I like Danny O'Regan, but that bottom 6, it's not great, especially in a season where the Pacific looks to be one of the best divisions in the AHL in terms of talent. The Silver Knights are going to be relying heavily on guys like Krebs and Duggan to carry the load, which is a role that I'm not sure they're ready for just yet, even though I think they are talented and will eventually be NHL players, especially Krebs. But the loss of guys like Glass and Quinney and Yurko really make this group look a little thin towards the back end.
Yeah, if you've been paying any attention whatsoever to social media and anything that people are saying about the taxi squads and all that, it's definitely going to hurt the AHL teams heading into this campaign. But, hopefully, like you said, with the CHL not starting their season yet, it'll give the opportunity for the younger guys to step up. And, obviously that lack of leadership and experience will be a problem, but I digress. Let's talk defense. Let's talk the blue liners. I like Jimmy Schultz. I think he'll be an okay number 1 defenseman for the Silver Knights this season. Dahlstrom is an okay number 2. I say okay-ish for both because I think they're both better suited for slightly smaller roles. If Nick Hague and Zach Whitecloud are here, this is shaping up to be a very good D-core. Their absence, though, forces the pieces behind them to have to step up into roles that they're maybe a little bit above their pay grade. Like you talked about Sean with the forwards. Just a lot of youth, a lot of guys put in positions they're probably not ready for. But here goes nothing. So, while Vegas's system isn't very defensive heavy in terms of responsibility, I know Coach Viveros he liked to utilize his D and make moves in transition when he was with Spokane. The rest of the D is rounded out by a lot of guys who don't have AHL experience or who have been bottom pair guys in the past and who really, they don't excite me. Caden Korzak, he could be an interesting one to keep an eye on, and he's got a lot of raw tools you want to see in a professional defenseman. But putting it together in his rookie campaign is really asking a lot of him. Now, Connie Corcoran, he had a lot of success in his overage year, but I don't think his game is ready for top 4 AHL minutes. But hey, if he proves me wrong, which he certainly could, I'll be more than happy to eat my words.
Now, if that was the front end of everything, a good goaltending core could absolutely keep this ship afloat, no problem. But that's not what we're looking at here. It's pretty hard to feel enthused about the goaltending group. If you listen to our episode 0, you'll recognize that goaltending is voodoo and literally anything can happen. But as a gambling man, I would not be betting big on this group as stated. If I were a Silver Knights fan, I'd be praying that somehow Oscar Dance comes to Henderson. Right now on the roster is Dylan Ferguson and Logan Thompson. Ferguson has some ECHL experience in Fort Wayne that went pretty terrible. He played 2 games for Chicago in the A last season that went very well, but 2 games does not a sample size make. Logan Thompson played well for the Stingrays in the ECHL last season, had some good years in the WHL and with Brock University. Those are encouraging, and he definitely deserves a shot in the AHL for sure. But there's a very big difference between a shot and, hey, you're our lead goaltender now. Especially with no veteran goalie to help mentor and what I'm sure is just an all-around gong show of a season, it's going to be tough on him. But with 40 ECHL games of pro experience and defensive core in front of him, that's just okay. I don't know that I would count on him to really make that step and look like a starting AHL goalie. It's possible, though. Like I said, goaltending is voodoo.
And, with Logan Thompson, with him signing that contract with the Vegas Golden Knights this offseason, it kind of surprised me. I mean, I would expect him to more sign an AHL deal than a full-fledged NHL contract, of course, being a 2-way deal, an entry-level deal rather. But I mean, yeah, from the forwards to the defensemen to the goaltenders rather, it's just a matter of youth. It's a matter of youth and inexperience. And there's a couple of different outcomes here. I'll touch on the best case scenario. Sean will touch on the worst case scenario. Best case scenario, Krebs gets to stay the whole season. Guys like Sakura, O'Regan, and Schultz step up and play well. And Logan Thompson and Dylan Ferguson somehow voodoo their way to being a league average goaltending tandem, and maybe some guest appearances from Oscar Dance, Thomas Yurko, and Nick Hague. They finish with 45 points, which in a normal 68 game season is 77 points. That would be good enough to sneak into the playoffs in most seasons in the Pacific Division.
Worst case scenario, Krebs gets yanked back to the CHL or to Vegas early, and the depth problems get real alarming real fast. The goaltending doesn't get good luck, and facing a schedule of what again looks like one of the most talented divisions in the AHL this season turns out to not go so well. They finish with, worst case scenario, 33 points, which is about 56 in a 68 regular game season. That's typically in worst team in the league territory, but not firmly cemented as such.
And I'll also touch on the most likely scenario. So it's closer to worse than best for me. I think Krebs outperforms expectations, but he also doesn't stay the season. I think somehow they scrape together, they scrap together an averages year in net and at least look competitive and don't quit in games. The model, which, you know, again, if you're not familiar with it, episode 0 is there. You get a little familiar with it. It has projected for about 36 points. It's projected the Silver Knights for 36 points, about 61 point pace in a regular 68 game season. I like them. Boy, there's a little Southern coming out there. I like them for around 40 points, which is a 68 point normal season. So there you go.
That's what we got for the Henderson Silver Knights. Give us a moment here to pay some bills, and we'll be back with the Ontario Reign season preview after the break here.
All right. Next up, staying in the Pacific Division, we are talking about the Ontario Reign and some stats here. Let me pull them up here, my little spreadsheet. For the Ontario Reign, their head coach, they hired a new head coach this offseason in John Wroblewski. That's his first season coaching the team, like I mentioned. Their 2019-20 record is 29-22-5-1. That was good for 5th in the Pacific Division, just outside of the playoffs when the season unceremoniously ended in March of 2020. Now, of course, their affiliation for 2021 is going to be the Los Angeles Kings. If you look at their logo, it's kind of apparent that that's who they're tied to, but I digress. 38 games scheduled for the Reign. They are another team that will be facing off against all 7 of their Pacific Division foes. And once again, I'll bump it over to Sean to talk about a forward core that he's pretty excited about, and he requested specifically to cover for this episode.
So we're going to preview all 28 teams playing in the AHL this season. I've taken a pretty good look at all of them so far, and I can say this for certain. This is the forward group I'm the most excited about, and it's not particularly close. Make no mistake, the top of this lineup is loaded for bear. Byfield, Kaliev, Thomas, Fagemo, Madden. If you don't know those names now, you will soon. They aren't just likely future NHLers. They're likely future very good, teetering on great NHLers. I have no idea if they all stick together due to call-ups, the CHL season, or some other unforeseen events, California legislation, California catches on fire again. You know, it's all possible.
California has an earthquake and breaks off at the fault line like you see in every disaster movie about them. But
yeah,
anyway.
If 2020 taught me anything, it's we should not discount the X factor of, you know, randomness.
Exactly. Anyway. Expect the unexpected. Go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But if they do all stick around for Ontario's full season, if you aren't a Reign fan, you should buy one of the full league AHL TV packages and come watch the Reign, because it's going to be fun. Byfield was the number 2 pick, and there was reasonable debate of whether or not he should have been the number 1 pick. Yes, he does have some small areas of his game that need work, but he still undoubtedly possesses an elite toolbox and is dripping with potential to be in award conversations in the NHL for a long time. Kaliev has more work to do to develop, mostly on his speed, but the man possesses a laser-guided rocket missile for a shot. Akil Thomas plays a very cerebral game. He sees and thinks the game very well, and he's someone who competes on every shift. He's maybe not the most physically gifted athlete, but given his creativity with the puck, 200-foot game, and work ethic, he still seems very likely to go on to a long and accomplished NHL career. Fagemo isn't a physical player by any means, but he's a good skater and another guy on the Reign that can just rip pucks. He got passed over in the 2018 draft, and it made me think of the Michael Jordan meme where he says, and I took that personally. Because he took big steps forward the next year, playing against men, not guys in his 18 and 19-year-old age group, against full-grown men in the top league in Sweden. And he made them look bad. He carried that team to a very good year. Madden is another very talented playmaker with great instincts in tight. Someone does need to glue him to the S&C coach, as he's listed as 152 pounds, which ain't getting it done in professional hockey. But he could put up video game numbers on a line with Fajimo or Kaliev, just feeding them one-timers. The rest of the forwards, they're fine. Aiden Dudas is a guy to be kept an eye on because he could blossom into being something good. Blaine Byron's a good bottom six guy. Isamont is good and close, crashes the net well. He's a solid depth scorer. But the feature of the show here is Byfield, Kaliev, Thomas, Fajimo, and Madden. Those are the names you need to know, and they are going to put on a show for you guys.
That's tough to follow up, Sean. You know, you pumped the tires for the forward core there, and now here I am talking about the defense. It's not going to be. It's just, yeah. It's like, you know, coming on after a band that just kills it, and you're trying to play your set, and you're like, well, how can I follow that up? I'll do my best. The blue line, the defenseman for the Ontario Reign. Let's talk about Bjornfoot. I think he can take a big step forward this year. As an 18-year-old, not looking out of place on an AHL roster is an accomplishment in and of itself, but he did quite well in the big role, and he was given, and I think he can put up top AHL defenseman numbers this season. Brickley's a fine number 2 defenseman who I like a lot. The rest is going to be up to a lot of young and unproven guys like Penn Stater Cole Holtz. There you go, Sean. Yeah, right up your alley there with your alma mater. You've also got Jacob Moverar and Marcus Phillips. Holtz and Moverar are good puck movers that shoot well but need work skating. Now, Phillips has some pro experience, but none of it has been inspiring to say the least. Austin Strand, he was pretty good in the role he played the past 2 seasons, so with a little prospect luck, this could be a very solid D-core for the Reign this season. Again, I think with the stoppage of play and the unique season that we have on hand, the CHL not playing, I think this is going to be a theme in these season previews, is that there are going to be a number of Canadian Hockey League guys, major juniors guys, that get the opportunity to play, and you could have inexperienced play a role in a lot of these teams for certain levels, especially with Henderson, like we talked about. But Ontario, that's the defenseman situation in a nutshell. Last but not least, of course, is goaltending.
And all that beauty we talked about with the forwards, that defensive group looks good. It all comes to a screeching halt here.
Oh, no.
JF Berube and Jakob Ingham are the 2 goalies listed as of right now, and wow, do neither inspire faith in me. Berube hasn't looked good since a short stint for the Ice Hogs in 17-18. Since then, he's been below average in Lehigh Valley, Hartford, and Cleveland. And yeah, LV was bad last year, but that 18-19 Monsters team wasn't, and Hartford was not Hartford bad last year. They were, they weren't Hartford bad. They were like actually a passable hockey team. None of that to me says that JF Berube is ready to give what is a very talented team in front of him serviceable net minding that they desire. Jakob Ingham doesn't do him much better. His last season in the OHL was pretty good. The 3 before it were not great. And he only had 2 ECHL starts, but man, did they not go well. And yes, 2 ECHL starts is 2 starts, but you'd expect a little better from a guy who's maybe going to be an AHL backup, getting starts in the ECHL. Either way, nothing here says I feel good about this goaltending tandem. So let's start talking with some outcomes.
Okay.
Best case scenario here, the Young Guns, aka the Black and Silver Bandits, composed of Byfield, Kaliev, Thomas, Fajimo, and Madden, stick together for the whole season and do what I think they will, which is set the Pacific Division on fire. The defensive core gets big minutes from guys like Holtz and Moverar, and by some John Robleski miracle, the goaltending holds. They finish with 49 points. That's an 87-point pace in a normal season, and usually good enough to be in the hunt for first place in the Pacific Division.
And I was going to mention after the goaltending, when you go out and sign one of the 2 goaltenders that win the Baz goaltending award for best goals against average in Troy Grosnick, and then you lose him on waivers to Edmonton, that definitely doesn't help. So you talked about the best case scenario. That would have been your best case scenario, is to not lose your award-winning goaltender that you signed in the offseason to Edmonton. So that said, let me talk about the worst case scenario here. The Black and Silver Bandits, as Sean so eloquently dubbed them, they get broken up due to the CHL season starting, or taxi squad assignments, or injury, or something else. The goaltending looks like, well, the goaltending. Guys like Aiden Dudas and Blaine Byron, they can't hold it together in their absence. They finish with 38 points, which is about 68 points in a normal season, not a playoff type of season, unfortunately. What's the most likely scenario, Sean?
Before we get to that, I do want to make one thing, just point out one thing here.
Sure.
Like, taxi squad waiver system is maybe the most ill-constructed thing I've seen in hockey in recent years. Like, oh, hey, just in case you guys need some extra players due to COVID or injury or these weird circumstances, we're going to give you this little like island that you can carry with you of 4 to 6 players. Oh, but you have to waive anyone to get there, and anyone can claim all these players off that island. So having organizational depth, who cares? That's the way the NHL set that up, and it is incredibly stupid. Like,
it's
what was the point in having the foresight to be like, we could need 3 useful goaltenders, when then just trying to get them to your, taxi squad island caused them to get vote? Like, that's dumb. That's a dumb system. Dumb, NHL. Dumb.
And the Grosnick situation really drove the point home. Like, LA went out of their way to sign this guy. Milwaukee wasn't going to be playing this season. That was a perfect open door for the primary starting goaltender. And then Edmonton just, it's like, well, crap.
And it wasn't just that. Eric Comrie with the Jets got scooped.
Good point.
Anton Forsberg scooped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was not just it only happened once, so, weird fluky thing, but the system worked as designed. No, you designed this system terribly.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. All right, most likely scenario, Sean.
I sadly don't think the Black and Silver Bandits stay together all season. At minimum, I think Byfield gets the call to LA. I don't think you draft the guy number 2 overall to put him in the AHL and what's probably going to be another lost year for the big club in LA. You might as well get him up there. But I do think guys like Thomas and Madden stick around long enough to keep things going smooth. But I think the goaltending keeps them from being a real threat in the long run. I still think they are a damn fun team, though, with a lot of 6-5 kind of back and forth games. The model projects them at 38 points, which I think is absolutely criminal. And I programmed this model, and I think it's wrong, especially the way it treats some of the guys like Fajimo and Madden. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. I think they finish with around 43, 44 points, which is a 79-point season in normal times. That's usually good enough for a 3rd or 4th spot in the division and a playoff berth.
Well, there you have it. And I don't know how many Henderson fans are listening right now at the end of the Ontario season preview, but I did fail to mention that the Fort Wayne Comets are still the ECHL affiliate of Vegas and Henderson this season. They don't start their ECHL season until February 19th. So I don't know what kind of benefit there will be for an AHL club to have both an NHL and an ECHL affiliate. But I think, if an ECHL team has signed some AHL fringe talent, I guess that does give you a little bit more depth on the 3rd and 4th lines. What do you think, Sean?
I think Henderson, Fort Wayne is, basically across the Atlantic from Nevada at this point.
Right.
Especially with the travel it takes to get there. So I think there is a non-zero chance you see a lot of guys who maybe get cut from Henderson and they're just like, you know what? Vegas is a great town. Maybe hang out here a couple weeks at a hotel we'll put you up in. Just see what happens instead of sending them to Fort Wayne. That seems like a much more likely instance than they just send guys back and forth to Fort Wayne. But I could be wrong. I know I would be like, I just got cut from this team and I want to, be upset about it in a raving city. Oh, look, Vegas is right there.
Oh, darn. I'm stuck in Vegas. Oh, darn. See, now I'm curious. Okay. Humor me for a second here. Like I said, I don't know how many fans out there are listening. I'm still looking at let's see. I'm looking at the 2021 roster for Fort Wayne. Oh, they actually do have a roster here. Okay. So yeah, you've got a lot of ECHL level talent. You still got your Sean Sadlowski's and your AJ Jinks. And okay. So yeah, they do have a roster. So, I mean, I would imagine with the February start, Fort Wayne is going to want to hold on to pretty much all of their talent to try and make the postseason in the ECHL. And, just like you said, Sean, I mean, how many guys are going to be like, okay, you have to come out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. You have to wait in Nevada for a 14-day quarantine. Who knows where we'll be in that point. So forgive me for bringing it up. Forget I said anything, but hey, I thought it'd be beneficial to correct myself and say, hey, Fort Wayne is the ECHL affiliate. I just mentioned Vegas. So anyway, moving on. Let's, I guess that'll be it for our first season preview episode number 1.
Yep. Our plan is to do 2 and occasionally 3 at a time, try and pair 2 teams that, if you're a fan of team 1, you probably want to listen to the other team just because you're going to see them a bunch and knowing what they're about seems useful. Either way, that is it for the show. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure you subscribe to get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you are, because that'll help us out a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a video in the comment and like the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of our social media and all of that stuff can be found in our link tree, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead.
Yep, you can see it right there scrolling across the bottom. So take a screenshot, write that down, pause it in the episode, go back and listen to it. Linktree. That's where you'll find all of our links. And once again, my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That is SEESEEHAWK. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Sean, you want to take over before I bumble any more words?
Absolutely. I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SEANOBRIEN81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien_81. You can find my stats work on Tableau at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase, all lowercase, all one word. I'd also like to give a shout out to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. DYSFUNCTION.
Alrighty, and stay tuned for the rest of the season previews coming down the pike at you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Keep your stick on the ice.